Okay, I'm good. For those of you that want to share the live stream link, I'm going to post it, okay? Just 1 second, somebody asked me for it. How do I do this? Copy link. Okay. Okay, I've posted it, huh? Alright. Mute my phone. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. Hope everyone's good inshallah. Extremely excited for today's class and extremely nervous as well, subhanallah, mainly because so far I've been teaching classes that were free, and at this moment, this class, most of you have sacrificed your hard-earned money to be part of this particular class. So I feel the pressure. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. طيب, first thing, I'm going to share my screen. There we go. طيب. Alright. Is that clear? Everyone can see that, right? Okay, Bismillah. Today, inshallah ta'ala, this is where we are, live class 1. We have done the pre-unit assignments, or most of you should have done that on Google Classroom. And inshallah ta'ala, on the 13th of March, which is tomorrow, you'll have access to the midweek assignments. And then we're going to have our second live class on March the 14th. And then inshallah ta'ala, the post-unit assignments will be available on the 16th. And that's week 1. So week 1, greetings and introduction, unit 1, التحية والتعارف. We'll start off with a quick overview. First up, we have the weekly planner, which I've shown you before. We fill it out normally at the beginning of the week, but there are still blanks here that I need to fill out, inshallah ta'ala. But this is basically what it is, and I'll share a link with you as well. We have these days over here. I'll add the dates as well, and this is the description, and these are the learning objectives. طيب. Before we start, what will we learn? What are we going to learn? And this I've taken directly from the book itself. Okay, so according to the book, what are the learning objectives? Okay, let's check it out. Then first and foremost, the theme. The theme for this particular unit is التحية والتعارف, which means greetings and introduction. Okay, and it's about giving and returning greetings, introducing yourself and introducing others, and asking about another person's name, country, or nationality. Okay, so this is, if you like, the theme of this week's chapter, بإذن الله الكريم. And in terms of vocabulary, then we have, let me show you that quickly. As some of you probably have already noticed when you've joined the Quizlet, you must have noticed that there are 3 different sets. Let me share the screen again. Okay, there are 3 different sets. We have العربية بين يديك core vocabulary, we have العربية بين يديك themed vocabulary, and we have العربية بين يديك supplementary vocabulary. Okay, so what's meant by those 3 different types of vocabulary? 1 second, I don't know why it's not opening the PDF. 1 second, let me refresh this quickly. Bismillah. Okay, Allah musta'an. It's meant to open up the PDF. There we go. I just load. So yeah, so 3 different types of vocabulary. The core vocabulary, they talk about it here in the book, and they say المفردات الأساسية it's called, وهي التي تشمل عليها الحوارات, and these are the vocabulary you find within the dialogues. Okay, ويتراوح عددها في الوحدة between 20 to 30 words, 20 to 30 new words that you need to learn as core vocabulary every single week. ويتم عرض المفردات الأساسية المصورة لكل حوار عقبه مباشرة. So after the end of every dialogue, they will give you a list of these vocab, and these are the ones that you have to memorize. Okay, and the core vocabulary for this week is about occupations, المهن, and countries, البلاد, and الجنسيات, which is nationalities. Okay, then we have, which is mentioned here, by the way, in this page 18, and I think I should share the PDF with you for the book. I'll do that inshallah ta'ala. Just remind me at the end of the class. So here on page 18 they talk about the مفردات. So we have كلمات تتعلق بالمهن والبلدان والجنسيات, occupations, countries, and nationalities. Then we have supplementary vocabulary. What are they? Okay, the supplementary vocab are المفردات الإضافية, they call it, وهي مجموعة من المفردات المهمة. These are important words that don't have a direct connection with the dialogue. Okay, but you should know them. Okay, and the reason why the student is given these words is because of their importance. Okay, and it's also there for you to supplement your vocabulary, specifically if you have extra time. Then finally we have the themed vocabulary. وهناك نوع آخر من المفردات سميناه بالمفردات المساندة, or they also call it supportive vocabulary. I call it themed vocabulary because they are grouped according to themes, different themes. Okay, so to show you an example, for example, here we have the themed vocabulary, and the first one is the human body. Okay, so all of the words in this particular, if you like, set, they are related to what? To the human body. So that's a particular theme. You have those that are related to jobs, weather, clothes, what have you. Okay, and the one that is most related to this week's unit is theme 14, personal identity. Okay, that's the one that is most related to this week's vocabulary. But generally speaking, these are words that don't have a direct connection to the dialogues. They just group together words that belong together. And sometimes it's very important for your vocabulary acquisition to learn words in context. Okay, so when you learn all the words for the human body together, then it's much easier for you to compare and contrast and recall, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, the supplementary vocab for this week is the numbers 1 to 5. Okay, then we have another thing we're going to learn this week is about the grammar. So we're going to learn about some function words. Function words basically are those words that are used very often, yes, that normally have a grammatical function. Okay, and they're very important. And the 2 groups we're going to start with, we're not going to learn all of them, but we're going to start with in this unit are أسماء الاستفهام, interrogative words, words used to ask questions, and أسماء الإشارة, demonstrative pronouns, words used to indicate or point at something. Okay, so these are the grammar concepts we are going to learn, and there are a few other concepts as well, which it is there within the dialogue itself, but the book didn't really highlight it. And I've talked about this before. I feel that the book, in terms of grammar, it lacks a bit. So it does actually teach, or it does actually make you practice things to do with other grammar concepts as well beyond these 2, but it doesn't really mention it as something that they focus on. But we'll highlight them inshallah and point them out. The projected learning outcomes. First, what's the difference between a learning objective and learning outcome? It's quite important because the learning objective, if you like, it's the plan, is what we hope you will learn inshallah. But the learning outcomes, that's what you've actually learned. Okay, so just the fact that we say at the beginning of a course or beginning of a week, these are the learning objectives, it doesn't mean every student is going to reach that. That's why we called it projected learning outcomes. Okay, and we have those that are course wide that relate to the whole course, and we've got them on the web page before you signed up. These are the projected learning outcomes, and please pay attention the way I've said projected learning outcomes and not learning outcomes. Why? Because each learning outcome depends on the student himself and how much work he puts into it. Yes, we can just project that hopefully you reach that level. Okay, so these are the ones course wide. I'm not going to go over them, you can check the website. But as you can see, there are some words here that are bolded out. Now this is basically what you need to do throughout the whole course. But when we say recall 600 words, how many of those do we need to recall this week? When we say essential grammar and morphological concepts that you need to comprehend and apply, which grammar and morphological concepts? When we say day-to-day interactions, sounds of the Arabic language, which sounds of the Arabic language am I going to learn this week? So that's what we mean by this week's learning outcomes. And that's the one we're going to talk about every single week, the week's outcomes. Don't worry about the coming weeks. Don't worry about the learning outcomes towards the end of the course. Just make sure you're on track every single week. That's the most important thing. So this week's milestones, if you like, I call them milestones. So if the course-wide learning objectives is the eventual destination we'll get to, inshallah, 3 months from now, then these weekly learning outcomes, they're like milestones. And we all know the importance of milestones, because when you have a milestone and you reach that milestone, it gives you confidence to continue. Whereas if you go on a long journey and there are no boards, nothing to show your progress, then you quickly lose hope and confidence. So these milestones, like we said before, every curriculum probably has them, and teachers might mention them, but I want the student to realize what these milestones are, because at the end of the day, you realizing your progress and that you've actually reached the milestone, this is what's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit you in terms of giving you more confidence, in terms of, it's going to give you more confidence because of progress itself. And we mentioned before that the greatest source of motivation is what? Is student confidence. Okay? So this is what you're going to, inshallah ta'ala, realize by the end of this week if you put the shift in. Number one, inshallah, you're going to recall 29 words. Okay, so that's the core vocabulary for this week. If you go on to the supplementary themed vocabulary, that's good for you. But I'm going to hold you accountable for these 29 words. You need to know them and recall them with ease. In terms of grammar, then you're going to comprehend and correctly apply interrogative words, demonstrative pronouns, and personal pronouns. Okay, at least the small selection of personal pronouns we're going to do in this lesson. In terms of comprehension, then you will develop the ability to comprehend written and spoken Arabic in your day-to-day interactions with speakers of the language. And in this particular, if you like context, it's the interaction of greeting someone and meeting someone new. Okay, I forgot to add that here. In terms of sounds, you will be able to recognize and correctly pronounce the kha and the kaf. These are the two sounds we're going to focus on in this week that the book has set out for this week. And finally, when it comes to speaking skills, then hopefully at the end of this week, you'll be able to initiate conversations in Arabic with confidence by giving and returning greetings, introducing others and yourself, and asking about another person's name, country, and nationality. There are no writing skills for this particular week. Writing will be introduced a bit later towards the 4th unit, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, now let's start with the lesson. Obviously, I did mention a few extra things today because the first lesson about the weekly overview, but inshallah ta'ala, going forward, every weekly overview is going to be much more concise than that. I'm just going to quickly give you the projected learning outcomes for this week, and that's it. First thing we're going to do, inshallah ta'ala, is the pre-unit assignments, okay, that I have assigned. Then all of you have already done that, or most of you have done that already, alhamdulillah. And our job right now is to assess you, okay? Do some kind of pre-assessment so that we see what level every student is at. And we'll explain why we do that and what the importance of that is, okay? But I just want to quickly go over the assignments or show you quickly for those students that didn't understand what was required of them, okay? So that you know it for next week, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so here, this is the Google Classroom. These are the assignments that I'm talking about. So we have a pre-class dialogue, yes, which I've shown last time. I don't need to show it again. We have the flashcards, and the dialogue, the purpose of the dialogue is to develop your reading fluency, and it also gives you some comprehension questions, okay? And some of you also recorded the voice note to prove that you can read fluently, and some of the submissions, mashallah, were brilliant, Allahumma barik, okay? Voice over level. And then we also have the vocabulary practice, which are these flashcards, if you like. The purpose of these flashcards is that you just practice. Okay, when you submit it, you won't get any answers. It won't tell you how good you are. Okay, it's just for you to practice preparing for the assessment. Because after that, you have the vocabulary assessment, which you should have done on Quizlet. Okay, so you go to Quizlet, you click the link, it takes you to Quizlet, and then you choose the test here, the test option over here, and then Quizlet is basically going to test you on that vocabulary. There are some writing questions, some true and false questions, and it's a whole mixture. Some of you said you made a lot of mistakes because of the harakat. Inshallah, we'll try and find a solution for that, inshallah ta'ala, when it comes to the harakat. We'll try to find a solution for that, bi'idhnillah al-kareem. Okay, so that's when it comes to the assignments that you are meant to do. Okay, the Google Classroom is accessible to the students on the premium cohort and those on the private mentorship. For those on the self-paced, if you like, plan or tier, I'm going to upload it for you to another platform. The same exercises roughly. The only difference, like I said before, is you won't have exercises that are marked by a teacher. Okay, so inshallah I'm going to fix that bi'idhnillah al-kareem. Okay, طيب. Going on to today's lesson, live class. This is where we are. Okay, first thing we're going to do, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to listen to the dialogue. After we listen to the dialogue, we're going to do a quick pre-assessment, inshallah ta'ala, to see your understanding. Okay, so the pre-assessment, what is it? It's a test taken by students before a new unit to find out what the students need more instruction on and what they may already know. What is also called prior knowledge, and it's really important because it saves the teacher time within the classroom when it comes to teaching new material. There are things that if I don't know that all of you already know it, I might spend 5 minutes explaining it when everybody already knows it. There's no point in that. Okay, and it's got other benefits as well. It gets the brain juices flowing for the student. We can compare it to the end of lesson quiz to see how much students have progressed, and also it allows us to know what we should focus on, okay, based on that prior knowledge that students already have. Okay, so let's first listen to the dialogue, bi'idhnillah al-kareem, and after that we're going to do a quick pre-assessment. Let me just open the PowerPoint slide. If there are quickly any questions, feel free to ask them whilst I fire up the PowerPoint slide. Are there any questions, Nigel?
There are no questions, Ustad.
Okay. Okay, Mumtaz. All right then. Okay, let me share the screen. Make sure you also share the sound. Share sound. There we go. Now we're just going to listen, inshallah, and after that I'll explain.
الوحدة الأولى التحية والتعارف. الوحدة الأولى الوحدة الأولى التحية والتعارف. الدرس الأول الحوار الأول.
ألف.
انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
اسمي خالد. ما اسمك؟
اسمي خليل.
كيف حالك؟
بخير والحمد لله. وكيف حالك أنت؟
بخير والحمد.
What happened there? 1 second, please. One second. Zoom needs some permission.
الحمد لله.
والآن جاء دورك.
Okay.
انظر.
So basically, this حوار, the way it works is that the first thing it does is it says انظر واستمع, which means watch and just listen. And then after that, انظر واستمع وأعد, which means watch, listen and repeat after them, and they've got spaces in between. We're not going to do that right now. mainly because we'll reserve the reading fluency for the workshop, whereby the students get chances to read, and also because this is something we've already done in the pre-unit assignments. And I've done that on purpose, okay? We're trying to do the flipped classroom model, whereby students get to do the work in class during the workshops, and anything that you can do by just watching or listening to a lecture, whatever, we hope you do that in your own time, okay? So all of you have went through the pre-unit assignment, you've listened to this, you've answered the vocabulary questions and the comprehension questions, so we're not going to spend time on that, inshallah. So we're just going to listen to this one as well,
الحوار
and then we'll go on
الأول.
to the vocabulary assessment.
باء.
انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
اسمي خولة، ما اسمك؟
اسمي خديجة.
كيف حالك؟
بخير والحمد لله. وكيف حالك أنت؟
بخير والحمد لله.
والآن جاء دورك.
Okay.
انظر واستمع.
These were
الوحدة
the
الأولى.
vocabulary practice
التحية والتعارف.
that you've already done in your own time, okay? They're the exact same. The ones that you've done in the pre-unit assignments and the ones here in the book, they're the exact same. So we can comfortably jump them. The answers in this particular unit, they're pretty easy, okay? You just copy and paste. But inshallah ta'ala, in the future, from unit 3 or unit 4 onwards, you're going to be typing, okay? So what we're going to be doing then is we are going to go over your answers, inshallah, and if there are any mistakes, I'm going to explain it in front of everyone, obviously maintaining your anonymity without mentioning your name, and I will explain why what has been written is wrong so that everyone can learn from each other's mistakes, okay? But today's lecture, there's no need for this because most of you just copied and pasted, because it can be copied and pasted straight from the conversation, but that won't be the case in the near future, okay? طيب.
الوحدة الأولى.
Before we go on to the next one, we're going to do a quick assessment of your vocabulary and your grammar. If I find that most of you there is something you've misunderstood, then I will go ahead and explain that. And if I find that everything has been understood and you know all the vocab, which I expect to be the case for today's lecture because it's quite easy, then we're just going to comfortably jump those things, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? So first thing, I want all of you to join WooClap, like always. And this time I've actually downloaded WooClap as an app on Zoom. And all of you can do the same thing actually. WooClap now, if you're using desktop, I'm not sure if Zoom apps are available on mobile, but if you're using desktop, scroll down and look at apps. You can click on that and you can actually use WooClap within Zoom. You don't need to go back and forth to another screen, okay? Which is very useful, specifically for the students, inshallah. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to send the link in the chat and you can join, inshallah ta'ala, on WooClap. There we go. If you're using the app within Zoom, then you need to use the code. And the code is basically the last 5 letters of the link. The last 5 letters. So let me paste that separately for those of you that might want to use it. You can use that code, okay? طيب. Alright, I'll give you a second or two to join and then we'll start. بإذن الله الكريم. Okay. Apps WooClap. Present an event. Can I ask, can any of you see WooClap within Zoom now, or do I need to share? You can't see anything, right?
Ustad, I can see the book club within Zoom.
You can see Woo Club within Zoom?
Yes, Ustad.
MashaAllah, without actually downloading the app, huh?
Through the desktop, yes, or the laptop.
Did you download the app?
Yes,
Woo
we
Club
have
app?
to. Yes, you have to.
Okay, that's great. So now, right now, can you see that I'm on the event scrolling up and down? Can you see that? Or you're just on your own Woo Club? You're basically waiting for the questions to show up, right?
Yes, Ustad, I'm waiting for the questions to show up.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, then. So before I start the first question, is everyone on Woo Club? Do we need to wait? Because these questions are time limited. So that we don't end up spending too much time on Woo Club. There's actually a time limit on it. Anyone still needs us to wait? Type in the chat quickly, inshallah, and then we'll just wait a little bit until you manage to join us. Almost there, just a moment. Okay, we'll wait. You might need to sign in to Woo Club. You can just sign in with your Google or whatever. And the reason I want you to sign in is because that way I can see the students' strengths and weaknesses. Okay, you don't have to install the app. You can still use Woo Club on a separate browser. Okay, just use the link that I've sent and just use Woo Club on a separate browser. If you can install the app, then that's a plus. Alhamdulillah, you don't need to go back and forth. If you can't, just go straight to the browser and use Woo Club like always. Okay. Yes, create account. It's fine. Just create an account. It takes 2 seconds. Sign in. Just create an account. Okay. If you choose create an account and just create an account, it takes 2 seconds. Or you can just use Google or whatever to create. So choose sign up and just create an account. It shouldn't be difficult, inshallah. I'll give you a bit longer, inshallah. Okay. If you can't sign in, then sign up. If you can't sign in, then sign up. Okay. We're going to start for now, inshallah ta'ala, and the rest will join us. Type. Apps. Okay, so the first question is, select the words you don't understand. So you got a list of words there. Any word that you don't understand, just select it. Just select the words you don't understand, okay? Select the words or the phrases that you don't understand. Let me share the screen. Okay, there we go. So now, Nigel, you can basically see Woo Club, right? As a shared screen.
Yes, Ustad, I can see your book club answers.
Good. Okay, Masmuka seems to be the biggest cloud. 3 students. Look, I said 100%. Select the words you don't understand 100%. Which means that even if you understand it 99%, I still want you to select it, inshallah. Only leave out words that you 100% know their meaning, okay? So, for example, here we have anta so far, and anti. I'm not sure who's got kasra there. Everybody knows the meaning of that, alhamdulillah. So I'm not going to spend time explaining those, alright? Masmuka. Okay, masmuka. Most of you don't know what masmuka and masmuki means. Okay, alhamdulillah. Alright then. Masmuka basically means what's your name. Alright, masmuka means what's your name. So it consists of 2 words. It's not actually a word. It actually consists of 3 words, to be precise. 3 words it consists of. Ma, ism, and ka. Okay, ma means what? Ism means name. Ka, your name. So this ka over here, it's a suffix. We'll explain what it means, inshallah ta'ala, when we get to the grammar side of things. But for now, this means what's your name? What's your name? And masmuki means the exact same thing. The only difference being that masmuka is used to address a male. So if you're speaking to a male, then you say masmuka. If you are asking a male, you say masmuk. If you're asking female, a sister, you say masmuki. Okay? Then we have kayfa haluka and kayfa haluki, which basically means how are you? How are you? Again, kayfa haluka for a male and kayfa haluki for a female. So we can see a pattern there, can't we? The ka and the ki. So cat is for males, ki is for females. So there's a small pattern over there. Okay, so alhamdulillah, I didn't spend time explaining something that all of you know. Let's go to the next one, inshallah ta'ala. I want you to select the, actually no, this is for the next dialogue. One moment, we'll put that over here. Next one, we're going to do the grammar. Okay, so I want you to rate your comprehension of the following sentences. Okay, I want you to rate your comprehension of the following sentences. How good do you understand what it means? So اسمي خالد ما اسمك اسمي خولة ما اسمك اسمي خليل اسمي خديجة كيف حالك كيف حالك. There's some repetition here actually. Next time I need to get rid of the repetition actually. Okay, so yeah, I want you to rate these sentences according to how well you understand it, and be as honest as possible. Okay, would rather be safe than sorry. If you have the slightest of doubts, then just give it a lower rating so that we can address it, inshallah ta'ala. So as we can see, mashallah, Allahumma barik, and don't think all of the lessons are going to be like this. This first lesson is quite easy. I expected this, but when we get to unit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to be a different story. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we have most sentences are well understood. There are a few like كيف حالك over here that needs a bit of work. Now كيف حالك, we already covered that when it came to the words. Even though it's a phrase, they actually counted it as part of the vocabulary because they want you to memorize the whole phrase together. They don't want you to break it down into separate words. That's how the curriculum works, right? I might not necessarily agree with that, but they don't want you to break it down. They want you to memorize masmuka as a whole sentence like that. If you see a male, you say masmuka. You see female, you say masmuki. That's it. Don't ask any questions. That's how the curriculum works. So those are actually sentences, but they were counted part of the vocabulary. So alhamdulillah, what I can see is, inshallah, it's well understood. Whatever confusion there might still be there, or there might still be, it will clear up, inshallah ta'ala, once we get to the grammar side of things. Let's listen to the next dialogue, inshallah, unless there are any questions. Nigel, let me know if there are any questions, inshallah. There is one question I received in private. I have a question regarding pronunciation. Masmuka is pronounced as masmuki and masmuka, but I don't understand why it's not pronounced as ma ismuka or ma ismuki. We've covered that in the Quran reading course. Because the alif over here is actually Hamzatul Wasl. And Hamzatul Wasl, it's written in the Quranic script, but it's not written in the normal standard Arabic script. Okay, so when we have masmuka and masmuki, why don't we say ma ismuka, ma ismuki? Because it's Hamzatul Wasl. And we learned that Hamzatul Wasl, what does it do? It joins and connects the two words. So we say masmuka, we join them together because of the Hamzatul Wasl. Okay, I hope that clears it up, inshallah. Okay, same thing, why do we say so basically, that's, I don't want to go into more detail. I hope that clears it up, inshallah, why we say masmuka and masmuki and not ma ismuka and ma ismuki. And jazakallah khair, that was a very good question. Okay,
Ustad, there's one more question.
Yes.
For the first question, it said to select the ones you don't understand. What if the student understands all of the words? What should they do?
Do nothing. Don't select anything. Don't select anything. Let the timer run by, and that's it. Inshallah, none of these questions are rated. These are just polls. They are polls. Type. Mumtaz. Let's go on to the next dialogue. And let me share screen again. There we go. Can you still see WooClap? By the way?
No, Ustad, I can see the textbook.
You can see PowerPoint, you can't see WooClap, huh?
PowerPoint, yeah, no, I can't see WooClap.
Okay, Mumtaz. Okay, let's close that then. Okay, let's listen to the next dialogue. 1 second. Okay. So 1 second, one of the teachers wants the link. me just record a quick voice note. sorry. حياك الله أستاذ. سنبدأ بعد 20 دقيقة إن شاء الله. بعد 20 دقيقة. لحظة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله أستاذ، حياك الله. سنبدأ بعد قليل إن شاء الله. نحن بدأنا متأخرا لأن أصحابنا في بريطانيا كانوا يصلون المغرب في تمام 6 عندهم، فبدأنا في 9:20 دقيقة تقريبا. فسأخلص المحاضرة أو الشرح بعد 20 دقيقة تقريبا، ثم إن شاء الله تعالى سنبدأ في ورش العمل بإذن الله الكريم. والآن أنا في الشرح، فلا أستطيع أن أعطيك الرابط لأن هناك لقاء الآن جاري. إذا انتهى هذا اللقاء سأنشئ رابط جديد وأرسل لك إن شاء الله. الله يحفظك. طيب sorry about that. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, Ustad Awad will be joining us inshallah. The teacher that did the talk last time, teacher at KSU. He'll be conducting the workshops inshallah. طيب الوحدة الأولى الحوار الثاني. بسم الله.
الدرس الثاني الحوار الثاني.
ألف. انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
من أين أنت؟
أنا من باكستان.
هل أنت باكستاني؟
نعم، أنا باكستاني. وما جنسيتك أنت؟
أنا تركي. أنا من تركيا.
أهلا وسهلا.
Okay, now we go on to the female version.
الحوار الثاني.
باء.
انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
من أين أنت؟
أنا من مصر.
هل أنت مصرية؟
نعم، أنا مصرية. وما جنسيتك أنت؟
أنا سورية. أنا من سوريا.
أهلا وسهلا.
Okay, ممتاز. Same thing again in WooClap. The same questions apply. Which select the words that you start with it. Select the words you don't understand 100%. Okay? Select the words you don't understand 100%. Okay. So, for all of you don't understand what ما جنسيتك means, Pakistani, Turkey, Misriya, Misr, those are all understood, alhamdulillah, which I expected. One person doesn't understand what Ana means, one person knows what Pakistan is, no problem, inshallah. طيب, ممتاز. Okay, going off your input, we have to focus on ما جنسيتك. Okay, ما we've heard before. ما اسمك, ما جنسيتك. So this word now, it means what? Okay, and we'll talk about that later. جنسيتك, جنسية means nationality. جنسية means nationality. جنسيتك, your nationality. Just the way that we said ما اسمك, ما اسمك, ما جنسيتك. Look at the pattern. What? اسم ك, yours. ما, what? جنسية ك, yours. Okay, ما اسمك, what's your name? ما جنسيتك, what's your nationality? And subhanallah, when you learn Arabic, you find it becomes obvious why Arabs talk the way they talk when they talk English. And you'll find this the case. So when Arabs say, for example, what your name? Or for example, they say, لا ما جنسيتك, what nationality you? Okay, then it's because that's how the structure is within the sentence. So this is one thing you have to know right from the beginning. the vocab you might be able to translate the vocabulary, okay? But that doesn't mean you'll understand the sentence, because the sentence structure is different in Arabic. Sentence structures in Arabic are generally different from the sentence structures in English, okay? So ما جنسيتك, what's your nationality? Another word, Pakistan means Pakistan. Syria is Syria. Misr is Egypt. So these are proper nouns, inshallah ta'ala, proper easy. One word, ana, means I. Ana means I. And we'll talk about that later once we get to the personal pronouns, inshallah. Let's now go on to the sentences. So which sentences, or rate your comprehension of the following sentences. Give it a fair rating. You understand 100%, 5 out of 5. And so on and so forth, okay? And nobody's, yeah, there we go. Okay, we might not get a chance to use this feature this week, but inshallah we'll use it for next lecture, which is the comparison feature, which where you have session 1 and session 2. And I suppose the way it works is that we can do this question at the beginning of the lecture, and then we can do it again at the end of the lecture, and then compare how much the students have improved. Okay, which was one of the objectives of doing the pre-lesson assessment. طيب, if I look at this right now, I can see that أهلا وسهلا needs some explanation. أهلا وسهلا means welcome. Okay, these are some of the phrases that there's no point trying to translate the word by word. أهلا وسهلا, welcome. Okay, just take it like that. Then we have some other ones. We have هل أنت باكستاني? Are you Pakistani? نعم أنا باكستاني. Yes, I'm Pakistani. وما جنسيتك أنت? And what's your nationality? We will talk about, inshallah ta'ala, what the difference is between Pakistan and Pakistani. We'll talk about that. Because here you can see, he says, أنا من Pakistan. He didn't say أنا من Pakistani. Okay? So what's the difference between Pakistan and Pakistani? That's one of the grammar concepts we are going to be talking about, inshallah ta'ala, soon. Okay? طيب. Great. Let's go on to the final one. The final dialogue, inshallah ta'ala, and then we're going to go on to the grammar explanations.
الحب.
Let me share the screen, sorry.
الحوار الثاني.
باء.
انظر واستمع. الوحدة الأولى.
التحية والتعارف. الدرس.
الوحدة الأولى. التحية والتعارف.
الدرس الثالث.
الحوار الثالث.
ألف.
انظر واستمع. السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام. هذا أخي، هو مدرس. أهلا وسهلا. هذا صديقي، هو مهندس.
أهلا وسهلا.
مع السلامة. مع السلامة.
Samihni
Okay,
Ustad,
volume is very nice.
the
Yes,
volume
sir.
is very low.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm not sharing the sound, sorry. Let me share the sound directly from the PC, inshallah. طيب, go to the next one. This one should be better.
الحوار الثالث.
باء.
انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
هذه أختي، هي طبيبة.
أهلا وسهلا.
هذه صديقتي، هي طالبة.
أهلا وسهلا.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.
ممتاز. Okay, we haven't started yet
والآن جاء.
explaining things, my dear brothers and sisters. Okay, all of this is still part of the pre-assessment, and then we're going to go on to explain the grammar concepts, inshallah ta'ala. We're just going through the vocabulary now, making sure to see what your level is on the vocab. Okay, So hal, for example, yes, we haven't talked about hal. Hal is a function word we're going to talk about when we get to the explanation of grammar, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Let's go back to WooClap again for the final round. Bismillah. Okay. The final round, ready? There we go. So, select the words you don't understand 100%. Now we have significantly more words, as you can see. Okay? Either you understand the vocabulary, the word 100%, or you don't. If you don't understand 100%, just select it, inshallah. Okay, let's look at the results. Okay, mashallah, as you can see this time round, it's kind of different. We have all of the words need some explanation. Okay, obviously most of you, if you've done your Quizlet flashcards, you should know the meaning of these vocab, these words, because you've got them there, the translation. Okay, but nevertheless, I'll explain them inshallah ta'ala. These are the ones you had most difficulty with. Mudarris, Sadiq, Sadiqa, and Taliba. Mudarris means teacher, Sadiq is friend, Sadiqa is friend, but then female. Okay, whereas Mudarris and Mudarrisa, male and female. Talib, Taliba, male and female. So again, we're seeing a pattern here, which we're going to explain inshallah ta'ala. Then we have these words over here, Hada and Hadihi, Huwa and Hiya. They need some explanation. What is the real difference between these? We'll talk about that inshallah. Then finally we have Akh and Ukht. Akh means brother, Ukht means sister. Akh means brother, Ukht means sister. And again, this lecture is not for translating vocabulary. That's something inshallah ta'ala you can do in Quizlet. I just wanted to know what your level is on these vocab, and I hope that clears things up. Okay, Mumtaz. Now we're gonna get to the gist of things. I think we got one more question on WooClap, sorry, which is the rate your comprehension of the following sentences. Only 3 sentences that we have that are new. Everything else has already preceded. Okay, so هذا أخي هو مدرس مع السلامة هذه صديقتي هي الطالبة. Okay, the other sentences, even though they might be slightly different, they're the same template. So هذا أخي هو مدرس is the same as هذا صديقي هو مهندس. It's the same sentence template. You just need to know what the different words mean within the sentence. Okay, أخي means brother, صديقي means friend, مدرس means teacher, مهندس means engineer. So it's just about you knowing which what the words mean, but the sentence structure is the same. Looking at the results, then obviously as you can see, is a significant difference from the previous ones. So again, once we get to the grammar explanation, all of this should clear up inshallah ta'ala. So the grammar explanation is what clears up this. So this is just a pre-assessment. Right, Mumtaz. Okay, any questions so far before we go on to explanation? Inshallah, we'll explain the grammar concepts over the course of 15 minutes inshallah, and then we'll wrap up and start the workshop inshallah. Any questions? In ما جنسيتك أنت, why does it say أنت when the kaf already means you? Good question. Good question. A very good question. Actually, I might as well answer it now because I wasn't planning to explain that. Again, these are the sort of questions, my dear brothers and sisters, which are very beneficial because I might not notice it because of something they call the curse of knowledge. When you know something, you assume everybody else knows it. So for me, it doesn't raise any red flags. But I know where you're coming from. ما جنسيتك أنت, there's repetition there. ما جنسيتك means what's your nationality, and then أنت means you. There's repetition there. Now, the repetition here is just for ta'kid. It's for emphasis. Okay? It's like saying and you. Okay? And you, what's your nationality? So if someone says to you, I'm Dutch. Yes, you ask him their nationality. Are you Dutch? Yes, I'm Dutch. And then how would you respond? You would say, and you? What's your nationality? You see, there's repetition there. Why is there the repetition? mainly because of emphasis or just that's the way people speak. Okay, but there's nothing new there. What is your name? You, is that the equivalent? Well, it's equivalent if you just stick to the you and you don't add extra. Okay, because the rest is understood from context. Okay, sometimes you might add extra, sometimes you might omit something. But I'm going to give you this rule, and this rule applies to the whole of the Arabic language. Okay, in the Arabic language, anything is allowed as long as the other person understands you. Okay, generally speaking, in Arabic, things are omitted, things are added, things are changed sometimes from their default state. Why? Because it's understood. Okay, and that's why they say لولا التقدير لفهم النحو الحمير. They said if it wasn't for taqdir or omitting stuff, they said that grammar would have been understood by donkeys, Arabic grammar. Okay, so it makes Arabic grammar difficult sometimes because within our speech things are omitted. Okay, because it's understood. طيب, going on to the explanation, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I hope it doesn't overwhelm you today, but I'll try to explain to the best of my ability, and make sure you ask any questions if there are any questions, inshallah ta'ala. I'm here to explain. And initially, to be honest, I thought of the workshop on Saturday being the lecture being hour and a half, and the workshop half an hour. But then I thought I could do everything within an hour, but it seems like that might be a stretch. But let's see where we get to, inshallah. طيب. So we've taken all of the 3 dialogues. We're done with the dialogues. You know the vocabulary within them. Now we're going to go on to the grammar side of things. And that's how the book is structured as well. After the dialogues, they have a grammar section. التراكيب النحوية it's called. Okay? Now I can go ahead and blab on and just talk and explain things. But I'm not going to do it that way. Instead, I'm going to ask questions. And I want you to give me an answer. Okay? And the reason I want to do that is because sometimes you think you understand something, but you only truly realize that you don't understand it when you try to explain it to someone else, when you try to articulate it. Okay? And that's one of the main benefits I get from teaching myself. So I want to share that experience with you today. Instead of giving you the answer, I'm going to ask you the question. And then eventually, inshallah, we'll explain. Okay? So these questions, they might seem very obvious, but when you try to explain it, you'll find out that actually it isn't. Okay? And all of the questions are one simple format. What's the difference between? That's all it is. Okay? So you're going to have 2 words or maybe 3 words, and you need to tell me what the difference between those words are. Okay? Type, let's do this. On clap again, like always. And try to be quick in your answers, inshallah ta'ala. But believe me, you trying to answer the question is going to be so much more beneficial than me just giving it to you on a plate. Okay? And you'll know what I'm talking about once you give it a try. Okay? طيب. clap is being a bit difficult. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So what's the difference between? Okay, what I'm going to do is, you just keep on answering. I'm going to give you 2 words. I'm going to show you on Remnote. And you just keep on answering, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Instead of posting 1 question every time, I'm just going to ask them one at a time. Okay? So let me share the screen again. Here we go. So the first question is, what's the difference between? Hope you can see that. Let me increase the size. Okay, well, what's the difference between ismi and ismuk? What's the difference between those 2? Ismi and ismuk. Be as concise as possible. What's the difference between ismi and ismuk? Oh no, I don't think I can share both at the same time, can I? My name and your name. No, I don't. Well, I don't want you to translate it for me, but yeah. So the difference is, well, you have one obvious difference. One ends with a ya and one ends with a kaf. So that's the first difference, and we have to mention that, okay? And then the other difference is that one is my name, one is your name. So basically, ismi is when you ascribe it to yourself. Ismuk is when you're addressing someone else. Okay, it does not mean gender. It's not a difference between gender, male and female, no. Okay, so those of you that said one is for male, one is for female, that's wrong. Okay? Ismi and ismuk. Ismi, my name, ismuk, your name. The difference is the ya and the kaf. What do we learn from that? We learn from that the ya at the end of ism means my. And the kaf at the end of the other ism means your. Okay, this is what we call possessive pronouns. Okay? Ismi, ismuk. Now, you can use any other noun that you like. Okay? Kitab. Kitabi, kitabuk. Okay? Ummi, ummuk. Mudarris. Mudarrisi, mudarrisuk. Or muallim. Muallimi and muallimuk. Ustad. Ustadi, ustaduk. Sayyara. Sayyarati, sayyaratuk. So, again, if it's yours, you add a ya at the end. If it's the person you're talking to, if it belongs to him, you add a kaf to the end. Okay? So that's basically the difference between ismi and ismuk. They're called possessive pronouns. Next one. What's the difference between... And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to duplicate this so that the answers don't get mixed up. What's the difference between ismuka and ismuki? Ismuka and ismuki. What's the difference? What's the difference between ismuka and ismuki? Sorry, I have to stop it quickly. There we go again. We have some answers. One is for male, one is for female. Gender. Naam, ahsantum. Perfect. Ijma', consensus amongst the scholars. Gender, male and female. Okay, no, let's not spend more time on that. What's the difference between ana and anta? What's the difference between ana and anta? Okay, we're still on the easy side of things, huh? Soon things will get difficult. Don't get too comfortable. Okay. Those of you following us on YouTube, I can't see any links. This is just a live stream. It's just a live stream of this class that's happening in Zoom for these students that have enrolled onto the program. But I just wanted, those of you that wanted to follow the live stream, I decided to stream it on YouTube. Perhaps they can benefit from it. Okay, pretty easy. Ana and anti. I'm sure everybody got that right. Me and you. And we'll talk about what the really difference is between me and you, like one person put it, first and second person. Some of you might not know what that means, but we'll talk about that inshallah. Me and you, I and you. Type, I have to correct you here. Me and you is wrong. Me and you is wrong. It's I and you. I and you. What's the difference? We'll talk about that later inshallah. طيب ممتاز. The next one. Let me just duplicate a lot of them actually. What's the difference between anta and huwa? Anta and huwa. We're going to be quick this time. Anta and huwa. I think I'm going to put a timer to it next time. 20 seconds. Anta and huwa. What's the difference? You and him. Pronoun. Yes. You or he or it. Yes, that's the correct answer. You or he or it with an M in between brackets, i.e. for male. Naam. Ahsant. Spot on answer. What's the difference between... like I said, now it's going to start to get difficult soon, inshallah. Let me just jump onto the more difficult ones, okay? Anta and huwa. It's pretty easy. Anta and anti, male and female. Anta and huwa. You and he. What's the difference between هذا and هو. This one's difficult. What's the difference between هذا and هو? Think carefully, huh? Because I know some of my students really used to get confused by هذا and هو. Okay, what's the difference between هذا and هو? This and he or it. Okay, I know that. Don't just translate. I know it means this and he and whatever, but what's really the difference يعني, in terms of grammatically? We're talking here about grammar, okay? Grammatically, what's the difference? When do you say he? When do you say this? For a thing or for a person? Now look, we're making progress now. I'm getting answers now that are, have a grammatic meaning, صح? Even though it's wrong. It doesn't mean for a thing or for a person. لا, that's not the difference. And I like the fact that now I get to see the way you're thinking and the misconceptions you might have. It benefits me a lot, inshallah, specifically when it comes to writing the exam. طيب, one is demonstrative, the other is a detached pronoun. Okay, mashallah, very technical. But now you need to put it in layman's terms. Okay, so that same person that put down one is demonstrative, one is a detached pronoun, what does that mean? What's really the difference? If a child asked you, why can't I just say huwa kitab? Why do I have to say hada kitab? Why do I have to say that? Okay, what's wrong with it? What's the difference? Okay? هذا أخي هو مهندس. Why? Why هذا أخي هو مهندس? Why not just هو أخي هو مهندس? Why not هذا أخي هذا مهندس? Okay? This is pointing something close and he for male. Close to you and far from you, no. One's for human or object, no. Near and far, no. Third person, second person, no. يعني maybe, okay, third and second, you're a bit close, but that's not really the difference. I'll tell you what really the difference is in proper, if you like, for you to understand. Okay? هذا, when you say هذا, okay, you're actually determining the thing that you're actually talking about. Okay? You're pointing it out. And then when you say huwa muhandis, now you're giving information about that thing. Let me give you an example. If I say right now, huwa talib, what are you going to say? Huwa talib. You can write it in the Zoom chat. If I say to you right now, just like that, out of nowhere, I say to you, huwa talib, what are you going to say? You're going to say who? Exactly, you're going to say who. You don't know who I'm talking about. If I say huwa talib, you're going to say who are you talking about? And we'll talk about that later, because personal pronouns, they take the place of another noun. And if you don't know what that noun is or what that entity is, you're like, what are you talking about? Whereas هذا, it specifies. You're pointing it out that, look, I'm talking about this individual. هذا أخي, this individual, he is my brother. Then as he continues the sentence, he says, huwa mudarris. Because now I know who it is you're talking about. Do you understand the difference now, inshallah? Okay? So هذا, it specifies, it determines, it demonstrates. Huwa, it refers back to something. What does it refer back to? It's something that the person you're speaking to already needs to know. If he doesn't know what it refers back to, he's going to leave confused and he's going to think you're crazy, or he's going to think you're talking to yourself. Okay? Is that understood? So again, something I'm sure all of you thought is pretty easy, huh? La. When you try to explain it. I know that probably you would have used the words in your speech easily, as you do in English. هذا and huwa, use it all the time, this and he. But when it comes to Arabic, especially when it's not your native language, you need these sort of pointers so you can remember. Finally, let's go for another one. Yeah, this is a difficult one. What's the difference between ma and hal? Ma and hal. What's the difference between ma and hal? And obviously these grammar questions, let me post it 1 second. These things, they rely on what? On you knowing your vocab, obviously. If you don't know your vocab, then of course, if you don't know what it means, you're not going to know the difference. Ma means what, hal means is or are or whatever. But what's really the difference? And when I say what's really the difference, what I mean is, when do you use this and when do you use that? I know it makes sense to you in English. Okay, these are the sort of things that someone might ask you in English, why do you say it this, that way? And if you don't know English grammar, you'll be confused. You won't be able to explain it to a non-English speaker, even though you understand it. Okay, but now you're on the opposite side. Right now, you're the person who's speaking a new language. And if you don't know why, you're going to be confused. Okay? So when do you use hal and when do you use ma? Even though they're both used for asking questions. But when do you use this one? When do you use that one? Yes or no question versus any other question. Not any other question. No. There are any other questions. Okay? Question negation, no. What versus yes or no. Okay, يعني you're getting close, but is this a book and what is that? حروف الجر connecting sentences words. No. حروف الجر don't connect sentences and words. حروف أسماء العطف or عطف حروف العطف, they're the ones that connect sentences and words, not حروف الجر. Both are questions. ما is what only. هل is a general question particle for other questions. Okay. Let me explain it to you. Let's go on to the grammar explanations, and inshallah now all of these questions will clear up. بإذن الله الكريم. Okay? But I love the way that you interacted and you had a go at figuring out the answer yourself. And right now, inshallah ta'ala, once I give you the answer, there's a specific place ready for it that you've prepared for it in your brain. Does that make sense, everyone? Why we did this, asking you these questions? Because right now, you've prepared a special place in your brain for the answer. Okay? Whereas if I just give it to you straight away, you don't know where to put it. But now you do know where to put it. Okay? Bye. Mumtaz. Alright, now we're going to go on to the explanations, inshallah. The first thing we're going to start with, and we're way running over time. 1 second. What do you think, brothers and sisters? Shall we start with the workshop? Or shall we explain these grammar concepts? I think going forward, yeah. What shall we do? So you're curious now, yeah? Grammar, yeah? Okay, carry on. Alright then, I'll explain inshallah. I'll explain, and perhaps the next time we will maybe update the time. I think going forward, and please give me your input, I think going forward, Saturday's lecture should mainly be explanation up to an hour and a half, 30 minutes of practice, and then Tuesday's lecture could be 30 minutes, recap, and then an hour and a half of practice in workshops. What do you think of the arrangement? Yeah, we'll be done inshallah. 30 minutes, maybe won't be, but we'll give a break. Okay? طيب ممتاز. Okay, let me explain it then quickly. We have, dear brothers and sisters, personal pronouns. Okay? What is a personal pronoun? A personal pronoun is a pronoun, personal pronouns are words that take the place of another noun. And we've explained that already. Yes? That when you say هذا أخي هو مهندس, هو took the place of أخي. How would we have spoken without personal pronouns? How would life be? Life would be something like this. This is Muhammad. Muhammad's a teacher. Muhammad has 4 children. Muhammad studies at King Saud University. Muhammad lives in Saudi Arabia. It sounds a bit repetitive, right? Okay? So that's where personal pronouns come in. You don't need to repeat the proper noun, that name, all the time. Okay? Once, if you know who it is you're talking about, you use a word that's suitable for that individual, and you repeat that word. So, Muhammad, this is Muhammad. He studies at King Saud University. He lives in Saudi Arabia, and he has 4 children. Okay? Does that make sense? Please, actually try to use the reactions feature in Zoom so I can gauge your understanding. I know all of you are muted, and I can't look at your faces and see if any of you are confused. But Zoom has this option whereby you can raise your hand or something if you don't understand. Because sometimes I might talk and we might not understand. You know, grammar can get a bit complicated. So I will leave it to our brother Najil, inshallah. Keep an eye on the chat. If any student says, I don't understand, just let me know, inshallah ta'ala. Otherwise, I'll continue explaining. Okay? So pronouns. What's the purpose of pronouns? We use it to avoid repeating the same noun over and over again. Okay, now there's one thing that you need to know. Personal pronouns, they have features. Okay, and these features, they have it because they are nouns. We're not going to talk right now about the 3 categories of speech, which are verbs, nouns, and particles in the Arabic language. I hope most of you know that all of the words in Arabic language can fit in one of those 3 buckets. Okay, right now we're dealing with nouns. Nouns are names of places or people or entities or whatever. It's a place of a person or a thing or an animal. A noun, something, an entity you're talking about. Yes. Now personal pronouns, they are nouns that take the place of other nouns, right? So they have the same features as nouns. What features do nouns have? Nouns have 4 features, whereas verbs, they have 3 features. Okay, generally speaking, right? Verbs, you have tenses, and there are other features as well. Whereas nouns, there are 4 aspects, there are 4 boxes when it comes to nouns. And every single box, it needs to tick something, or something, one of the options needs to be selected. And I'll explain to you what that means. First, we have person. Okay, this is specific to pronouns. Okay, we have first, second, and third person. What's the difference between first, second, and third person? This is a really important thing for you to understand, and this is really what pronouns are about. Okay, first person is when you're talking about yourself. Second person is when you're talking to someone else. You're addressing someone. Third person is when you're talking to someone else about someone else. Okay? So first person, talking about yourself. Second person, you're addressing someone. Third person, there's someone else who's either not present or who is present, but you're not addressing him. You're talking about him to someone else. Then you use the third person. Example. First person, I. Okay? Or it could also be we. But at this stage, we're not doing plurals. We're just doing singulars. Okay? So in total, we're going to take 5 pronouns in the first, I think, 2 units of this book. Yes? First one is I. Ana. Then we have the second person. Well, the second person, we have 2. Okay? Why do we have 2 and not just 1? Because gender makes a difference. So we're not going to talk about number. We're not going to talk about plurality. We're not going to talk about singular, plural, and dual. No. But right now, we have person and we have gender. Those are the 2 things we're worried about. Person and gender. Sah? Person, first, second, third, and gender. So we have I, then we have you. Okay, but in Arabic we've got 2 U's. We got multiple U's actually. We got you for female, or let's say male. And we got you for female, right? You, second person. Third person, we have he. Okay, and we also have to say it, because in Arabic we don't differentiate. We don't differentiate between animals and inanimate objects, or animals or humans. We use the same pronoun for all of them. You know, in English you say he to a human, you say it to an object or an animal. Doesn't exist in Arabic. Okay, so he or it, which has to be what? Has to be male. Okay, that's huwa. Huwa. Okay, I need to write the Arabic actually. What do we have? Ana. Okay. Change my keyboard. Ana. We have male. Anta. Female. Anti. Huwa. And hiya. Okay? Okay. So that's when it comes to gender, which we have male or female. Now, when it comes to gender, specifically in the Arabic language, there are markers, or there are certain things that tell us if something is male or female. We'll talk about that another time. But one of them is the ta marbuta at the end. So the difference between talib and talibah. One of the objectives of this lesson. Talib and talibah, knowing the difference between the 2. Muhandis, muhandisah. Tabib, tabibah. Okay, so you can make something feminine by adding that ta marbuta at the end, which is pronounced as a ha, as we've took in the Quran reading course. Okay. Also, another sign of gender is the kasra. Okay. Masmuka, masmuki. Haluka, haluki. Okay. So these are markers or signs that shows if something is masculine or feminine. Okay. So this is when it comes to personal pronouns, and they are extremely important. Extremely important. And look, I know that most of you have heard nothing new right now. You probably knew all of this, right? But when it comes to these grammar skills, it's not about knowing it, it's about applying it. It's the same thing, the analogy that I gave when it comes to driving a car. It's not about knowing how to drive a car, theoretically. It's about actually developing those motor skills. Same thing with grammar skills. It's actually developing the ability to say it off the top of your tongue. Huwa, hiya, hada, hadi, without thinking twice. Reaching a level of what? Automaticity, where you don't think about the small details. Okay? The other thing as well are demonstrative pronouns. And here we talked about the difference between personal pronouns and demonstrative pronouns. But personal pronouns we said so that we don't repeat the same noun. But it needs to return and refer back to a noun we already know. Whereas demonstrative pronouns, we actually use it to point something out that we want to talk about, okay? So there are words such as this and that used to indicate which entities are being referred to, okay? They're normally used for the second person, and they also have gender, male and female, okay? I think it's pretty easy. هذا, هذه. Those are the two that we have. Don't think about anything else. If it's a male that you want to point out, you say هذا. If it's female, you say هذه. That's it, okay? Then we have what we call interrogative words, okay? What are interrogative words? They are words that you use, or question words, and their function is you use them to ask a question, okay? And in this particular unit, we are learning about 3 interrogative words, okay? And right now, you're going to know the difference between ma and hal, okay? So when it comes to interrogative words, there are different categories. The first category are interrogative determiners, as in they determine something. Yes, so these are questions such as what. So when you ask a question of what, you want to determine something, what it is. As opposed to interrogative adverbs, such as when, which is, or where, which is one of the ones that we've learned in this lesson. Aina, where. So what's the difference between ma, what, and aina? The difference is that ma, you want me to determine something. I'm going to say to you, this is that, or you're going to say ma hada, I'm going to say to you, hada kitab. Whereas where, we know what we're talking about, but you want to give me an adjective or an adverb, or you want to give me a description of that thing. Where is my book? Okay, so you know what the book is, but you just don't know where it is. Okay, so these are called interrogative adverbs, all right? And there's many of them, but just for you to know the difference. So you have the ones where you ask about the whereabouts, you ask about how, you ask about how many, you ask about when. These are the interrogative adverbs. Now, talking about the difference between ma and hal, that I think all of you couldn't answer. Then the difference is that ma and hal, the difference is between open and closed-ended questions. Okay, and some of you alluded to it, to be honest, but you didn't get it right 100%. So closed-ended questions, what are they? What are open-ended questions? Closed-ended questions are those which can be answered by a simple yes or no. Some of you, a lot of you mentioned that. Okay, so if I say to you, for example, is this a book? Okay, or هل أنت باكستاني? Are you Pakistani? هل أنت مصري? Are you Egyptian? The answer could be nothing but a yes or a no, except if you're a politician, of course, right? But for normal human beings, the answer has to be yes or no. Okay, هل أنت باكستاني؟ نعم أنا باكستاني. لا أنا مصري. Okay, so closed-ended questions can be answered by a yes or a no, whereas open-ended questions are those questions which require thought and they need more than a simple yes or no. They are open-ended. The answer could be anything. Okay, the answer could be anything. And the examples within the book are many, but the words used for open-ended question is what? Ma. If I say to you, ma hada, what is this? Anything or anything you say could be grammatically a correct answer. I'm not talking about if it's really that. Okay, if I say to you, ma hada, and you say to me, hada dahab, it's gold, in essence it isn't. Yeah, you lied, okay? And you're held accountable for that. But grammatically, that's a correct answer. Okay? Those are what? Open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions, yes or no. When would you use this one and this one? It makes common sense. Open-ended, when you have no idea. You want to know. You're seeking information. Closed-ended question is when you're not sure. You just want to double check. هل أنت باكستاني? You know, you look Pakistani يا أخي. هل أنت باكستاني? نعم. لا. أنا هندي. صح? Okay. Obviously, the answer to that has also a structure. So open-ended questions, they have their own structure. Closed-ended questions have their own structure. We mentioned closed-ended questions. نعم. لا. And then you can specify what the correct answer is. Interrogative adverbs, we don't need to talk about that. Where? Pretty easy. أين. من أين أنت? Okay? Where are you from? Min means from. Okay? It's been brought forward here. But the original way of the sentence is أنت من أين? Okay? So there's a bit of mixing up. Okay? And that happens a lot in Arabic. And this is a point that all of you should know. Arabic is a 3-word order language. The words can be in any order. and changing the order of the words gives added meanings. Whereas English is a fixed word order language. You change the order of the words, you change the grammar. To give you a very quick example, Zaid hit Khalid. Fixed. If you change the order in English, you say Khalid hit Zaid, the whole meaning changed. Khalid is now the criminal, whereas Zaid is the victim. Right? If you change the order. But in Arabic, that's not the case. In Arabic, you can say Daraba Zaidun Amran or Daraba Amran Zaidun. Still the same meaning. Okay? So how do they get about? How do they know the difference? By way of the harakat at the end, which is the whole science of i'rab, which inshallah ta'ala we're going to talk about another time. We're done now with the explanation. Are there any questions? And we can go on to the workshop inshallah. In case of some names, ta marbuta exists at the end of male names, and going by this rule, people think that some boys have female names. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the general rule, these are markers. They're not determinants. They just help you as a tip. But that doesn't mean that any word that ends with a ta marbuta is a female name. Okay? Neither any female name that doesn't end with ta marbuta doesn't make it a male name. Okay? So jazakallah khair for pointing that out. طيب. Alright. Let's start with the workshop then, inshallah. So to wrap up, are there any questions? What's next? The workshop, obviously. Midweek assignments, make sure you do it. They're going to be available on Google Classroom, inshallah, from tomorrow. And then skill building exercises as well, focusing on this week's grammar skill. This week is dedicated to personal pronouns. By the end of the week, this is supplemental, these grammar skills. They're supplemental. But that's what we're going to spend in these skill building workshops. And yeah, so what you're going to be doing with the teacher in private is the التراكيب النحوية exercises. Okay, which are those exercises which allow you to practice the grammar concepts that we've taken today, inshallah ta'ala. And then next week we'll go on to the speaking and the writing exercises. Okay, barakallahu feekum. The sisters, I'm going to post the link to your Zoom class in the relevant groups, the premium cohort and the private mentorship group, and the brothers likewise inshallah. And those of you that are on the self-paced program, then the workshops are not included, obviously, because we need to keep the numbers small in the workshop, because we want the teacher to give as much attention to every student as possible. Okay? Barakallahu feekum. If there are any other questions, then what I would say is post them inshallah in the Telegram channel as a comment, inshallah. But now we need to close this meeting so that we can start the workshops. Give me 5 minutes to send the links, inshallah ta'ala, and then the workshops can commence. If some of you need to pray and what have you, then we'll talk about that in the workshop, inshallah. We'll give you a break there. We'll continue with other students that are not praying. We'll deal with that inside the workshop, inshallah. Are there any pressing questions other than that before I end this meeting? السلام عليكم أستاذ. نبدأ الآن إن شاء الله. عساك جاهز. بارك الله فيك. Okay? يلا. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Let's take the conversation onto the either Telegram channel and inside the workshops.